Hello, my name is Agnieszka Pikulicka-Wilczewska and this is Turan Tales, a podcast about Central Asia. It delves into stories of people, politics, social change and more, and is part of my newsletter which you can support on Substack. Welcome and be my guest in the journey to Central Asia. Hi listeners! I'm recording this week's intro in my new home in Almaty. The weather is just perfect, like always in the late summer. I spend my days getting to know my neighborhood, walking my dog, meeting friends, old and new, and writing. I'm very grateful to be back in Central Asia after almost 4 years in Europe. I hope that Almaty will be a good host for me and for Turan Tales. If any of you, dear listeners, are around, make sure to let me know. With our today's guest, we will talk about a topic that always attracts a lot of attention: first daughters, and the female face of Central Asian politics. Ever since the 5 Central Asian republics gained independence, there has been no shortage of presidential daughters. Some of them have been famous and highly ambitious, like the legendary Gulnara Karimova and Dariga Nazarbayeva. Some have been humbler, but still have played important roles in their fathers' administrations, like the Mirziyoyev sisters, or some of the many daughters of Tajikistan's president Emomali Rahmon. Some are only now getting out of the shadows, like Oguljahan Atabayeva from Turkmenistan. Regardless of their public profile, they all play a role in preserving their father's rules. The question is, could any of them succeed their father? Could a woman become a president in Central Asia? And what role, if any, the first daughters play in changing the position of women in their respective states? Joining us is Galia Ibragimova, an Uzbekistan-born freelance journalist and researcher who focuses on political transformation in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. She's also a PhD candidate in political science at the University of World Economy and Diplomacy in Tashkent. Welcome to Turan Talks. Hey Galia, how are you today?
Hello Agnieszka, I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. So today we are to talk about the daughters of Central Asian presidents, and there are quite a few interesting stories related to these women. So let's start from the very beginning. So why Central Asia watchers seem to be so obsessed with presidential daughters? Is it because in the conservative and patriarchal region, which Central Asia clearly is, first daughters somehow elevate the status of women?
Yes, Agnieszka, you are right. It is really very interesting process that in Central Asia, which is known as a very traditional and male-dominated region, we surprisingly see a lot of women involved in politics. For example, if we watch to the close relatives of Shavkat Mirziyoyev, second president of Uzbekistan, we shall see that his 2 daughters play a very important role in politics. Even in Turkmenistan, we unexpectedly see the daughter of the former president Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, Oguljahan. And now she received a new role in this political system. Her official position is vice president of Children Charity. And many watchers noticed that she starts to give a lot of interviews to foreign medias and really plays a very important, unexpected, interesting role in this political system. At the same time, Emomali Rahmon, the president of Tajikistan, has 7 daughters and just 2 sons, and almost all of these daughters also play different role in political system. Then we can analyze Nursultan Nazarbayev and his 3 daughters, Islam Karimov, his 2 daughters. And I think their main feature is just close ties with the president and their father. It's how to say briefly about daughters.
So let's start maybe from Tajikistan. And you already mentioned that Emomali Rahmon has several daughters. We recently heard the news that Farzona, his youngest daughter, has been promoted to the position of the head of department, which takes care of liaisons with international donors at the health ministry. So what do we know about her position? And what do we know about her other 6 sisters?
Yes, Farzona Emomali is the youngest daughter of Tajikistan president, and she's just 27, and we know that she recently graduated medical university, but at the same time, if she starts her political career, we can make conclusion that she doesn't become a doctor. So she also got degree in public administration, but I don't think that we should pay more attention on Farzona Emomali because there are her older sisters who play a more important role in this political system. And of course, the most ambitious is her elder sister Ozoda Emomali, and she's the head of president office. And people around her and around presidential office, they all know her as strong leader, and a lot of security service members support her political ambitions. And also we know Emomali Rahmon's fifth daughter, and her name is Rukhshona. And she also involved in politics, but not in internal politics, but international politics. She worked in diplomacy for many years. And as I know now, she worked as an ambassador in Great Britain. And who knows, but maybe she also has some ambitions. And now there is some kind of rivalry between all these children of Emomali Rahmon and who will be his successor. And of course, we know that he is going to give his power to his son, Rustam Emomali. But at the same time, there are a lot of persons in Tajik system who against Rustam Emomali, and they don't want to see him as a president of Tajikistan. And it is one of the main reasons why Emomali Rahmon always postpone this transit of power in his country. And Tajikistan is just one country which still now has the same president who ruled it from the beginning of its independence. And if to return to the questions of daughters, we also know Tahmina, Parvina, and these women are also Emomali Rahmon's daughter, and they also play some kind of role in political, economic, and maybe social sphere. And the political system of Tajikistan consists of all these relatives, and it not depend on the talents of Rahmon's children, but it's just Rahmon try to construct around him the circle and to put on these places people whom he can trust. And of course, he trusts just to his close relatives. And for example, now we know that his grandson also has political ambitions. And so when we say about daughters, we should understand that if, for example, all these Central Asia leaders, if they would have sons, it would be the same situation. They would play the same role, but they have daughters. So we see daughters in this Central Asia politics. And it's not because Central Asia becomes so progressive and politics obtain female face. No, it's just because some of these leaders, they don't have sons. For example, Islam Karimov, he had 2 daughters, and at the same time, he had one nephew, and his nephew criticized him all the time. And Islam Karimov locked him to the hospital. So it doesn't mean daughters or son. The main important thing to be a relative to the president of Central Asia states.
But Islam Karimov also had a son from his first marriage, but their relations weren't very, very close. But yes, Gulnara and Lola Karimova, this is another topic that I would like to talk about with you. So definitely when we talk about Central Asian politics and first daughters, we can't ignore the two because they somehow became the symbolic first daughters, much talked about in the context of Central Asia. So how it happened that they became this influential people, and what was their real role in Uzbek politics?
Well, yes, it was interesting precedent in Central Asia politics, Gulnara and Lola Karimova. But I don't think that it's unique because at the same time we have the same situation in Kazakhstan. Dariga Nazarbayeva and Gulnara Karimova, they have almost the same fate. And of course, Gulnara was in the center of world attention. And that is why we know more about her life. And yes, Gulnara and Lola Karimova are daughters of the first Uzbekistan president, Islam Karimov. And of course, they earned their position not thanks to their hard work, but because they were family members. And as we discussed, Karimov didn't have any son, and even after his first marriage, we don't know much about him. And as I told before, his nephew who criticized him was locked in a psychiatric hospital. And I'm sure that if he had son, he would play the same role maybe as Gulnara. And as for Gulnara, she really loved attention. And during her life, I mean her public life, she's still alive, but now she's in prison. She was a diplomat, she was pop singer, and she was fashion designer. And we know that at the same time, there were a lot of scandals around her, and she was involved in many situations where foreign investment, for example, they pay her huge amount of money to get access to Uzbek market. And for example, as I remember, there was a scandal around foreign investment who should pay her. It's some kind of mobile company that pay her billions of dollars. Maybe millions, but maybe billions. And they admitted it later. And I remember that period of life in Uzbekistan, almost all business company afraid Gulnara Karimova. Even it was small cafe, small company, the businessmen from these spheres, they realized that to get access to some kind of normal existing in Uzbekistan environment, they should pay to Gulnara. And it was, in some aspect, very horrific situation. And I think that at the end of his life, Karimov tired of it. I don't know whether he knew about Gulnara's activities. Maybe yes, maybe no. But Gulnara, she was arrested when Islam Karimov was alive in the last years of his life. She was put under home arrest. And now, as we know, when Shavkat Mirziyoyev became the second president of Uzbekistan, Gulnara Karimova, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And now she's in regular prison near Tashkent. but as some people say, even in prison, she has VIP conditions and she gets special treatments, private space and food deliveries. And even in prison zone, she has all these privilege as a daughter of the former president. So I think that we heard much about Gulnara Karimova because during her public life, there were a lot of scandals around her. And for example, if we look on her sister, Lola Karimova, she was more humble and she tried to present her as a good mother, as a very diligent person, but in her private life. But at the same time, we know that her husband was a big businessman and he controlled big markets in Uzbekistan. And also there were a lot of corruption around it. And when Gulnara Karimova, the first daughter, when she was arrested, Lola Karimova with her husband and, as I understand, with her mother, they left Uzbekistan and now they live somewhere abroad. So very specific situation. And it is, how to say, negative example of how to be on the high level position and to lose everything. I mean, Gulnara Karimova.
And do you think that the fact that Gulnara was a woman somehow influenced the way, for example, the security services looked at her or people around Islam Karimov? Because this is the theory that I've heard from one of my Uzbek colleagues who talked to me about the case of Gulnara Karimova, that she maybe annoyed many people because she was so unconservative. She was showing herself in revealing clothes. She was wearing yoga clothes and published photos online. So do you think that the fact that she was so un-Uzbek, let's say, in a way, had some impact on her fall in the end?
I think that these reasons also could influence on her situation. But frankly speaking, I don't think that it is the main reason. If we look on popular singers or actresses in Uzbekistan, they dressed in the same way. And Uzbekistan promote itself as a secular country, and women there, they dressed as they like. And for example, nowadays, even as I know, the authorities put ban on wearing some on too traditional and Islamic clothes. And they support the woman when they dress in normal secular way. And as for Gulnara, well, my point of view, the main reason is not how she was clothed, but how she behaved herself. Yes, I remember that she record some song and it was recorded in mosque, and her view and her clothes was not patriarchal, and people didn't like it. But who knows? For example, today, Saida Mirziyoyeva, Shahnoza Mirziyoyeva, yes, maybe they dressed not in such provocative way, but at the same time, they don't dress in some kind of traditional or patriarchal style. So that is why my conclusion that these provocatives from Gulnara Karimova connected more with her behavior in such sphere as economic relation, corruption, scandals, and maybe her ambitions to take power, but not how she was dressed.
As we've already switched to Saida and Shahnoza, tell me, do you think that they learned from the example of Gulnara Karimova, and that's why they decided to build their public profile in a completely different way? Or is it just that they have different personalities?
Well, yes. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, he also has two daughters. He has a son, but now he's a schoolboy. He attends secondary school. And so, like Emomali Rahmon, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, he trusts also just to his close relatives, and it means to his daughters also. And Saida Mirziyoyeva, his eldest daughter, recently she received position as the head of his administration. And of course, if we shall look on this situation, we should ask, how can it be? We know situation around Gulnara Karimova. Why Shavkat Mirziyoyev does the same? And why Saida Mirziyoyeva, realizing that there was so negative precedent around Gulnara, why she took the same position? But here start the most interesting point. Saida Mirziyoyeva, she tried to construct her image on the opposite of Gulnara Karimova. She tried to show her as a very modest and a very humble person and hard-working woman who really want to help not just her father, but to help her homeland. And she always, and people around her, they always pay attention that she's very diligent, and she graduated the University of World Economy and Diplomacy, and she also has degree at the Tashkent State University of Law. And she's far away, of course, from Gulnara. And, I think that it is the main rule for Saida herself not to be the same as Gulnara Karimova. But at the same time, even if he tried to show her on an opposite way than Gulnara Karimova and not to behave her in the same provocative way, of course, we see the same parallels between her and Gulnara Karimova, because we didn't know something about Saida Mirziyoyeva before her appearance on this political scene. And I don't know if to imagine what will happen with Saida if there will be some kind of transit of power. I'm not sure that Saida will save her position and her influence will disappear in the same way as it unexpectedly appeared on public space, And I think despite the fact that many people try to say that Saida Mirziyoyeva is opposite to Gulnara Karimova, I think there are a lot of common things between them. And nowadays we see the same scandals around her. For example, Gulnara Karimova and Lola Karimova, we know that their relations as sisters, they were not so good. And now we can say the same situation inside Mirziyoyev family. Saida Mirziyoyeva has not good relation with her youngest sister Shahnoza Mirziyoyeva, and the reason of this conflict is the husband of Shahnoza Mirziyoyeva, and this president son-in-law, he also has political ambitions. His name is Atabek Umarov, and as I know, he tried several months ago to build his own security system around him. He tried to involve different people inside his circle, and Saida Mirziyoyeva, she knew about it and she told about it to her father, and there were a big scandal inside the family, and now the relation between sisters is not so good, and so politics, as we know, can influence in such way. And so it's like soap opera, every president tried to put his children on high position, and at the end they start to struggle with each other, and it is difficult for the president to rely on somebody, and at the same time, I don't know how we can analyze children as a real political player in the system, in such close system like Uzbekistan or other Central Asia countries.
But when we look at Saida Mirziyoyeva and her influence within Uzbekistan, which at the moment currently is quite substantial, do you think that it matters that she is a woman, and that maybe if she was a man, it would be clear that she would replace her father as president?
Well, I think that it is all just speculation that she could be the successor of her father. The same situation. I think that just because Shavkat Mirziyoyev has two daughters, they play the most important role in this political system. For example, he had an assistant. He was the son of his close friend. And there were rumors that this man could become his successor. And in some months, he was fired. And Shavkat Mirziyoyev, he doesn't like such rumors. Maybe, when he put his daughter on such high-level position, he realized that surrounding around him, they won't expect that a woman can become a successor in such patriarchal society as Uzbekistan is. And maybe in some aspect, it is even a guarantee that nobody and nothing won't create some kind of problems to Saida's position. And from her side, she maybe really can do some, good things for the system, So my thought here is just, it's not about democracy of the system, modernization of the system, and how people around Mirziyoyev persist Saida Mirziyoyeva. It's Shavkat Mirziyoyev relies on Saida Mirziyoyeva, and elites, they realize that there is no chance for women to become a successor in such society as Uzbekistan is. And so in this way, this system developed.
Okay, so let's move to Turkmenistan. You've already mentioned Oguljahan Atabayeva, the daughter of Turkmenistan's supreme leader, because the president is now his son. So what do we know about her, and what do we know about her influence in Turkmenistan's system?
Several years ago, we know nothing about his daughters. And as for me, I learned about them from my European colleagues who asked me why there are so interesting signals from Turkmenistan, and what does it mean that Berdimuhamedov's daughter became so popular in foreign media. And it was surprising for me. And I start to analyze this situation, and unexpectedly, I read that Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov has two daughters, and one of them, Oguljahan Atabayeva, recently was appointed on the position as vice president on children's charity, something like that. I don't remember the proper title of her position. And when she obtained this position, she gives a lot of interview to foreign media, and she promotes the image of Turkmenistan, and she meets with foreign guests who visited Turkmenistan. And of course, people who watch process in Central Asia countries start to suggest that maybe Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov is not satisfied with his son in the role of the president of Turkmenistan, and maybe we can see some new transit of power in future. But at the same time, when I spoke with my sources inside Turkmenistan, they explained me that, after Russia invaded into Ukraine, Turkmenistan became a very interesting country from his energy resource points of view. And a lot of European delegation visit Turkmenistan and they want to receive gas from Turkmenistan. But the main threat is that Turkmenistan is a very close country and investors, businessmen, they know less about this country. And so Oguljahan Atabayeva, she has fluent English. And for several years, she lived in Great Britain. Her husband was some kind of diplomat in the embassy of Turkmenistan in Great Britain. And during this period, I think this couple obtained some skills which help them now to promote the image of Turkmenistan. And so the role of Oguljahan Atabayeva is just a person who can promote Turkmenistan image for foreign audience. And yes, she speaks with European media and she tried to explain how democratic Turkmenistan is, and she support foreign investment. And at the same time, we realize that during the 34 years of independence of Turkmenistan, we knew nothing about first ladies. If we try to remember the first president, Turkmenbashi Niyazov, and as I remember, he had bad relation with his wife, and she lives now in Russia. And as for second president, Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, we know less about her. And it is interesting point here that as for me and for people who observe situation in Turkmenistan, we received some kind of information about Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov's wife after she became the mother of the current president, But all these women, they are very quiet and they don't like this public attention. And even nowadays, Serdar Berdimuhamedov, the son of Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, his wife attended these public events just one time when Serdar Berdimuhamedov visited Turkey. And from that period, we didn't see his wife with him. But at the same time, as we realize now, first ladies, they play important roles. And so Turkmenistan also needs some kind of first ladies. And so, as I understand, Oguljahan Atabayeva, the daughter of Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, she plays such role of first lady of Turkmenistan. But at the same time, I think that here not just about first ladies' roles and a person who can speak with foreign leaders, but it is like in Tajikistan, he want to give different aspects and different parts of this political system and all economic resource to the hands of his close relatives. And it means that this autocratic system will remain for a long period in Turkmenistan society.
Okay, so what we have left is Kazakhstan. And Nursultan's Nazarbayev's daughters, actually, one of them, Dariga, whom you've already mentioned, was a chairman of the Senate and a prominent Kazakh politician. What can we say about her influence on Kazakh politics and society, which of course has faded ever since, but what was her role?
Well, if to compare Dariga Nazarbayeva with Gulnara Karimova, their public life was almost at the same period. I think Dariga Nazarbayeva was much more involved in political process than Gulnara Karimova. Islam Karimov, he never looked on his daughter like on his successor. There were just rumors around it. But as for Nursultan Nazarbayev, I read a lot of memories of the people in his circle, and they wrote there that even in 1990s, he several times visited Moscow and he met with Boris Yeltsin and with his team, and he presented his daughter Dariga as one of his main assistant. And people in Russian elites looked on her as a person whom he will give power. And really, if we analyze her career during this period, she was a member of the parliament, then she was the head of the parliament, then she received the position as a senator in the parliament, and at the same time, she controlled a lot of media sources in Kazakhstan, and it is also one of the instruments how Dariga Nazarbayeva could influence on situation around her. And for example, even after the transit of power in 2019, she had political ambitions. We can remember that there were a lot of provocative situations when Dariga Nazarbayeva even argued with Kasim-Jomart Tokayev when he received the power. And there were a lot of rumors that till now Dariga Nazarbayeva can become a real successor. But as for now, we see that she left politics and she lived her quiet life. But at the same time, as I watch different Kazakhstan YouTube channels and read a lot of articles, there is also a version that till now Dariga Nazarbayeva has some media which stay very influential, and she has her team inside Tokayev's surroundings, and in such ways she even now continue to influence on political situation. But I think it's not true, and I think now she maybe for the first time in her life can live like a normal person without any of these political activities. But if we analyze her life from different point of view, I don't think that it is a life of really a happy woman. For example, her marriage with Rahat Aliyev. Her husband has political ambitions, and as we know, he died in Austria prison, and her son had addictions, and he was in hospital, and he died here. And I think it's a tragedy for any woman. And Dariga Nazarbayeva is not so happy with her political status and this fact that she is the daughter of Nursultan Nazarbayev. So for me, it's very difficult to analyze how she feels herself. But frankly speaking, I feel that there are a lot of difficult situations in her life also. But yes, she was very famous, but now she has a lot of resources. She has some business sources inside Kazakhstan. And her sisters, they also had different position, but now they try to live as normal Kazakh citizen.
Dariga, even though she was prepared to replace her father, possibly, still didn't do that. His successor was a man. And if we look at other Central Asian countries, the successors of presidents are always men. So if we analyze it from this perspective, is being a presidential daughter a curse or a rare privilege? How would you summarize it?
Well, really, it's very interesting questions, but I think it depends from what point of view we look on this situation. For example, during the period when Gulnara Karimova was so famous inside Uzbek society, there were a lot of people who really believed that there would be some kind of reforms thanks to Gulnara Karimova and thanks to her attitude to life. She was a very secular woman and she tried to promote some interesting things, some reforms, even in cultural education sphere. And they really had this chance to make some good things, to reform this patriarchal society of Uzbekistan. But they chose to receive all this privilege from the system, corruption, money, a lot of, concert as for Gulnara Karimova. And for her, I think, as we see now, she's now in prison. And for her, it's a curse, I think. But at that moment, it was, of course, a privilege. As for Saida Mirziyoyeva, as I told before, despite the fact that she tried to build her own way, and she construct it on, on an opposite way from Gulnara Karimova, but at the same time, we can see a lot of common. And, now I can say that for Saida Mirziyoyeva, it's really a privilege. And again, today, people around her, they believe that she could do a lot of good things to modernize Uzbek society, to help women, to create some good circumstances for ordinary people. But who knows? We don't know what will happen after transit of power, if it would be. But if, for example, in several years, Shavkat Mirziyoyev will make decision to organize this transit of power, I don't know on what position Saida Mirziyoyeva would be. So let's hope that it is really a privilege, and this privilege will help Saida Mirziyoyeva to improve life of people in Uzbekistan. So I think in this way we can analyze on all close relatives. Either we discuss this Oguljahan Atabayeva, yes, it is very interesting phenomena that she start to promote Turkmenistan image, and maybe she will use this power and she will influence in some aspect on her father and on her brother, and to make some changes, some democratic changes. But maybe she will stay just a person who speak with foreign media, and in some years we shall say that it was also a curse for her. So it depends on how they will use this power, all these daughters. But as for me, as I told at the beginning of our conversation, I don't believe that their political ambition will long, even if their fathers will step away from power. They will step away with them.
Do you think that in any way the first daughters have challenged patriarchy in Central Asia? Have they changed anything in general? Because, looking especially at Gulnara's time, I have a feeling that she somehow changed the way people portray power as such. But maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Interesting questions. For example, till now, even after scandals around Gulnara Karimova, there is a lot of critics inside Uzbekistan if even Uzbek singer will dress in some provocative way. And for example, recently, Uzbekistan held a big concert of Jennifer Lopez. And it was really very big event for the whole Central Asia. But after this concert, after this big show, which made me to feel admiration with my homeland, at the same time, we see that again, there were a big scandal, all these patriarchal society, people inside that, and most interesting fact, women inside a parliament, they start to criticize the organizers of this concert because it's not goes according to Uzbek traditions to organize such concert where a singer behave in so provocative way, and it's not according to the traditions of Uzbekistan society, and it's not according to Uzbekchilik, mean to stay Uzbek with this patriarchal attitude to life. And what I mean here, so can we say that Gulnara Karimova influence on such women in parliament, whether Gulnara Karimova change their mind? No, I don't think so. And I think that when Uzbekistan will become real democracy, let's hope that we shall see such country. Then maybe the attitude of the people inside Uzbek society will change. But now it stayed very conservative, and we have what we have.
Okay, thank you so much. That was super interesting, and I wish you best of luck.
Thank you, Agnieszka.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Turan Tales on Substack. I look forward to meeting you there and on my newsletter's social media.